glad that you could all make it this evening. And first thing I'm going to do is get you all healers. Hold on just a moment while I get them. Okay, all your healers have stepped up. And as always, if you know someone else who is in need of healing, simply ask your healer to send out healing to those people that you want to name, and they will take care of them while they're busy taking care of you. It's because they can multitask. Okay, and now I will get Ron card. One moment, please. Good evening. It is I, Ron Carr. It is my pleasure to be with you in this evening. I had said last week that I would begin to discuss perceptions. We have been talking about how love is the energy of creation, but your perceptions are the vehicle by which you frequently create your world. You see, each one of you has a different view of everything that happens. You have been brought up by the example of your parents, your teachers, your rest of your family, and your friends to think in certain ways. You have been conditioned, so to speak. You have been taught to think and logically deduct things, this piece of information from that which you receive by your senses. And you come to conclusions based on those thoughts and actions that you have, that you are busy having, your analysis of situations. And no two people see exactly the same world as everyone else. Everyone is distinct and different because you have a difference in your perceptions. Your senses pay attention to different things that they see. Your sight doesn't always see the same thing everyone else sees, excuse me. But part of that problem is due to the fact that perhaps some of your sight is more acute than it is for other people. You may be colorblind, but also you have been conditioned to observe certain things around yourself. Similarly, with your hearing, you have been conditioned to listen for different things over time. Perhaps you don't listen to just the words, you listen to the tone of voice, and you try to read the person's emotions from their tone of voice. You, of course, are looking at their facial expressions, and you are deducting what they are thinking and how they are feeling about something. So between the informations that your ears hear with their tone of voice, between the changes in their facial features that your eyes observe when you are talking to someone, so it is that you will interpret the words that they speak in different ways. If you perceive someone is angry, you may have a defensive reaction to what they are saying. Or you can have a sympathetic one if that anger seems to be pointed towards someone else. It is entirely your judgment that causes you to hear the same words meaning different things at different times. Or you color your understanding of the meaning of those words by what you perceive in people's facial expressions and their tone of voice. Similarly, if there is touch, you can also feel and interpret different things with touch. You may be more sensitive to the heat of an object, and this may affect what you think is going on. You also may be more sensitive to whether it is soft or rough. You are looking at different things or listening or perceiving slightly different things about the same subject, the same object, and this is affecting your interpretation. Plus, you are seeing color. Now, everybody sees color slightly differently. partially because their eyes may have different structures in them that are more acute than other people's eyes. As you know, some people cannot perceive the same colors as other people. And so this affects what you see and what is visible to yourself. For if you cannot see a wider range of colors, perhaps some things disappear into backgrounds because everything is the same color as the background, and you cannot distinguish it. But there again, someone else may see it standing out very loudly because they can see a red object on a green thing instead of thinking that everything is green. They perceive it as all the same color. And so, with this little bit of knowledge concerning your perceptions, that physically you are going to see different things, that you are going to listen for different things, it becomes obvious that you are paying attention to different things in the information that comes into your senses. And as a result, what you are thinking about is colored by your judgments. And in this way, it is not objective. It is always subjective because it has been subjected to interpretation through your brain, which assessed that which is seeing, hearing, what it is taking in through its senses. And so you interpret what's going on in different ways. Some people are trained to be highly aware of everything that is going on around them in the way of motion, and perhaps they have a heightened sense of danger, so they carefully are watching for dangerous situations. Other people think the environment's very harmonious and they don't even see the clues for danger. They just go on their way. Now, how do you think that affects your situation? When you go forward thinking that there's possible danger, you are highly alert and intense, and you will find yourself perhaps tense and nervous as you move forward. But if you perceive this is a very benevolent place to be, you will be very relaxed. You will see an entirely different environment. These are simple examples of how your perceptions affect what you are seeing, hearing, thinking. And it is important to remember that these are all subjective things. Now, why am I going on about this? It is because frequently the best way to change your life or to change something that is happening around you comes merely from choosing to reinterpret that which you see, hear, or think about, how you have analyzed things in a different way. If you have been tense and you think that it is very hostile to yourself or your ideas, perhaps you can adopt a more neutral viewpoint in that situation and think that this is not hostile to yourself. It is not favorable to yourself, but it is just neutral. And you can interpret the expressions on other people's faces and what's going on in the situation in a very neutral way, not thinking that it is a difficulty for yourself and that people do not like you. They are merely curious or interested. You have the option to choose how you want to perceive or view the others that you are in contact with at that time. Similarly, if in your past you have been hurt by someone and it has caused you disappointment and it has caused you pain and suffering in some way, and you need to move away from that pain and suffering in your life, you are told by others you should forgive them. Well, this is how you forgive them. You choose to find a different interpretation of what happened. Instead of thinking whatever they said was about you, begin to think of it as it was a reflection of themselves, that they were perhaps not brought up properly, not brought up to be nice, not brought up to be pleasant to people. And so the way they act and the way they look at people may be just bad manners. Wouldn't that make it easier to put up with someone who was never trained to be a person who thought about the reactions of others, and they just said whatever they said, and this brought about, they did not care and were not told that they should care about other people's feelings and reactions. Perhaps they just didn't have the right vocabulary and the words they used were wrong. Or it is often, vocabulary is often misinterpreted by others. That is why you look for expressions on their face and also listen for emotions or their tone of voice, because vocabulary can so often be misinterpreted. And so you look for these other clues to figure out what is correct. How is the best way to interpret what is going on around you? So it becomes important for you to realize that your perceptions, the way you perceive the world around you, is unique to you and may not reflect accurately the way other people see the world, what they intended, what was happening. It can be a source of bad information for yourself, for your mind has simply chosen to analyze situations, words, perceptions, hearing, seeing everything that has come in, and has come up with a conclusion, which may not be accurate. We always think our perceptions are accurate, but they often are not. And if you can master your perceptions, if you can choose to see situations in such a way that they make you feel good instead of bad, you are a master of your own emotions, because your judgments trigger your feelings. Your judgments make you happy. Your judgments make you unhappy. And realizing this, you can now choose to change your judgments. If your inclination is such that you think there is something going on that is making you unhappy, you can perhaps check that before you get too invested in that reality. And perhaps you can change that reality for yourself by choosing to view it in a different way, to think about what is being said or done in a way that leaves you feeling happy and confident in your life. It is a difficult skill to master, but it is one that will serve you well in your life. If you can look at something and see something good at all times, then it is that you will feel much happier in your life. You will feel more confident in yourself. You will be a master of your own circumstances, for you make the choices which empower yourself. And you know that you are the person in control of the situation. You acknowledge your power as the creator of your life, because you can change the way you perceive the world that is around you to make it more harmonious, more peaceful, more happy, more healthy for yourself. Are there any questions in what I have said in this evening? Or if there are no questions about my topic that I have chosen, perhaps you would like to ask your own questions and I will see what I can do to help you. So someone needs to unmute themselves and ask their question.
Hello, this is Nick. I have a question about if I'm naturally psychic in some sense. I feel like I've been labeled schizophrenic. I understand mediumship, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and channeling. I just want to know, what does it mean to be psychic in some sense?
That is an interesting question. Well, first of all, everyone is psychic. And those things that you mentioned about being clairaudient or clairvoyant, these are merely aspects of the psychic gifts. And since you are aware of what they mean, there is no reason for me to explain them to you. If others do have a question, they should feel free to ask that question later. So everyone is psychic to some extent or another. Most people choose to block most of the psychic information that is coming to them because they think it is in their imagination. And this is not a psychic impression. Many people, though, respond to their own intuition. And what is intuition? It is just another word for being psychic about what is going on around you and what is best for yourself. You seek out the information, you find it within yourself because all things come through you. As we have been discussing with our perceptions, that is how you learn about the world around you, that what you perceive. Now, many people, in listening to other individuals, reach out and try to understand what they are thinking and what they mean in their fullest amount. They are not necessarily accessing the um, uh, the interpretation of the expressions on people's face or the tone of voice. They are just mentally wanting to know exactly what this person's means and what they are saying. And these people are using their psychic abilities to discern information that is not obviously um, present in their in the words and actions of others. They are seeking the meaning underneath. And so they are reaching out psychically. I do not know if that answers your question, but your question seemed to center around yourself and whether you are psychic. So, since I will tell you that everyone is psychic, of course you are psychic. It comes in how you wish to use this ability. Do you wish to use it to help yourself understand your life and to move into greater control of things? Are you just seeking information? Do you want to help other people? These are the questions I would ask you, or you can ask yourself. For what purpose would you be developing your psychic abilities? Well, you see, everyone is psychic. All you need to do is practice. Now, to that purpose, you might like to join some sort of a class that is teaching psychic abilities or helping people to develop their psychic abilities. Or you could simply choose to work on it on your own, trying to make little predictions here and there about what is going to happen, and just to see if you can begin to discern more things and allow things to come to you psychically. You can also practice with a deck of cards. You can separate the cards out, not looking at them, shuffle them up so you cannot see what they are, and just by holding them, decide whether they are red or black and see whether you get more correct than you get wrong. And you can increase that skill. Or you can also try to figure out what the number is and what the suit is without looking at it. And put all the ones you get correct in one pile and put the ones that are incorrect in another pile. and you will see how many you get correct and how many are wrong and when you finish going through the deck. And as a result, you will be able to judge just how psychic you are. Now, statistically, you will of course get some correct. And I cannot tell you what the odds are as you are going through a deck of cards, but you will get some. And certainly, if you come anywhere close to getting 50% correct, you are doing extremely well. So do not be harsh on yourself. These are just things that you can try to check your psychic abilities as well as enhance your psychic abilities. Do you have a further question on the subject? Was I helpful at all?
Yes. uh, well, I mean, I feel that these abilities are enhanced at a fairly high level, but I would like to further. Well, I would like to help people in some sense, but I just feel like that I do take medication, and I always end up in disbelief of being psychic sometimes. But uh, it feels like it's bigger than myself in some sense.
Um, so you take medication. Did you say that you were have a diagnosis of some schizophrenia?
Yes.
I see. Yes, and sometimes people who are diagnosed as schizophrenia hear voices. So it's a little bit difficult for you to tell whether or not you are hearing voices or whether you are that are imaginary or whether you are picking up on your own psychic impressions. So
Yes.
I can see your dilemma there. I am not sure how I can be helpful on that, but it would be best for you to try to join a class or a psychic development circle. And certainly classes are offered at the Institute, maybe not at the moment, but there is one coming up. Um, and I think the medium will be talking about it at the end of the session. And perhaps you can sign up for that and practice uh, the class as it is being taught. And that is the best way to see whether the information that you get and what you are hearing is accurate or whether it is a piece of your information. Now, one of the things, it is my understanding that with your difficulty in schizophrenia, that uh, if what you are hearing is helpful to yourself and is also helpful for someone you say you were trying to read for, if it is good information, it is probably your psychic abilities. If it is something that is very negative, it is more likely to be your mental difficulty or your mind being a little bit off. Because psychically, if you are reading with the intention to help someone, that which you receive should be helpful and should not be negative. For discussions of negative possibilities is not helpful. It can make people think of the wrong type of things and expect things and take actions which are not healthy. And so, therefore, for your own judgment, if you find that you are being negative, it is probable that you are not focused properly on the other person and are not focused on your psychic abilities. You're not bringing in the right sensory impressions. Psychic abilities come to you in much the same way as your normal senses. Um, you, of course, have the ability to hear. And so you may be hearing words and dialogue in your head. It will not appear as if it is outside your ears. It'll be in your own head, but it should be helpful and uplifting. If it is, of course, clairvoyance is the ability to see. And if the vision forms in your mind, and once again, it's a positive vision and helpful, then it is very possible it is a good psychic impression. You should always start anytime you are going to practice by surrounding yourself with the white light. That is the prayer we said at the beginning of class. I surround myself with the white light of truth. Nothing but that which is of the truth or for my good shall approach me, for I am a child of God, and he will protect me. And this will help start you in the right positive frame of mind in order to do a good psychic reading. But for you, it may take some discernment in order to tell the difference between what you are thinking and hearing and what you are thinking and hearing. I hope that has been helpful.
Yes, it was.
Are there other questions?
Along those lines, I was going to ask about premonitions. Now, I don't mean like the short-term ones where you say, oh, okay, I knew so-and-so was going to call or something like that. But I've heard people say, oh, I had a premonition about that 3 years ago, or I knew this was going to happen. Are they, now somebody asked me why they got things like that. And the only thing I could think of was, well, maybe spirit's trying to give you the heads up just so you don't get too upset when it happens. So I was wondering if you could give me a little more information on that.
Yes, I'd be happy to discuss that. Due to the fact that psychic abilities are quite natural and normal, you merely need to have some understanding of that which a psychic can see and that which they can perceive. Because the best analogy I can think of is if you are at the ocean and you are standing on a sand dune, so we will put you just a little bit higher, or it does not matter, you can be just at the beach. And you are looking at the ocean and the waves that are coming in. Now, there could be lots of things floating around in the water. There is some flotsam, we will say, some bits of seaweed, some pieces of wood, some leaves, anything that is there. And the waves are going up and down. And things that you can see when the wave is high that are on the top of the wave, you can see. And then sometimes they float behind the wave and you cannot see them. Sometimes they are in the front of the wave and you can see them. And so a psychic's ability depends on whatever she happens to be seeing and what's visible at the moment. Or we will say he. It does not matter. The psychic is able to see whatever is showing on that wave. And perhaps, 2 minutes later, you could not see it any longer. But at that point, they have the viewpoint of what is going to happen. And this stuff that is floating on the waves, which will eventually end up on the shore. So, since it's unpredictable, you don't know whether what you see is going to ride the wave all the way into shore, or whether it'll just float out there for a little while before it finally gets propelled into the shore. And so that's why sometimes premonitions come about things that are quite a bit in the future, rather than immediate ones such as, I'm thinking of my mother and my mother calls me, which is what you were speaking of, the immediate ones. You were wondering about the ones that take longer. So people have these premonitions and these thoughts because everyone is psychic and certain things come to them, especially if they are meant to manifest in their lifetime. You see, there are many possible things happening at once in your life, many possible endings to what is going on. And some things are almost destined to be because you have chosen to come into the life with certain life forces certain things that will come in and give you challenges. And so you may be aware of something that is destined to you. You may see and may catch it coming much more easily than something that was not a reason you came into the incarnation, but merely is something that comes along the way as a challenge for yourself to other things or as a result of your own actions. And so that is why sometimes premonitions can be quite far out in the future, and other premonitions may be closer in for you. Is that helpful? Did you understand?
I think so. I just didn't know whether I should have told them, it's basically spirits just trying to give you a heads up on what might be coming in the future. And then when it comes, well, it's there. You already knew about it. I mean, sometimes these things are not even good. It might be, unpleasant things. But I was thinking, well, if this person maybe couldn't handle it, if it was just thrown in front of them, but since they had a premonition that something was going to happen, that maybe it was easier for them to deal with it. Is that possible?
That is an interesting question. You see, you believe that all psychic phenomena is coming from spirit, but it may be that what someone is picking up, we will use that phrase, what they are seeing or hearing or sensing is in the future on its way. And that is merely something that they are able to sense. Not all, not everything you take in psychically is a message from spirit. It could simply be similar to a prognostication in which you are looking at all the details that are going on, and on some level, subconscious or not, you are logically putting these together to bring about a situation that you sense or that you know is going to happen. That is something that you think about, and it's almost like a logical conclusion. But sometimes this can be done on a subconscious level, and so you still sense them. So it is possible that not all psychic impressions are sent to you by spirit for any particular reason. Now, it may be that in that situation where we are speaking, it is a prognostication that has been made within the subconscious mind, and you come to that knowledge and that conclusion that such and so will be happening at some point in the future, or is a distinct possibility. It may be there for your edification to enhance your ability to deal with it later, but that would be a message from your subconscious mind, we will say, rather than spirit. And it does not matter where it comes from. You must realize that, whether you choose to interpret it as coming from spirit. It has come to you. And if you can benefit from it, you benefit from it. If you cannot accept it, and you do not take advantage of this thought that has come to you, then you simply will not benefit from it. Many times in your life, you have many thoughts which help you through life. And you have the opportunity many times to have thoughts that are not helpful to you. And so it is up for you to choose that which will bring you the greatest good. It is in your correct interpretation of your perceptions that you will benefit or not benefit. I hope you have a better understanding now.
Yes, that's like, okay, so we can actually create these things in our subconscious, and then we recognize them when they happen.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Many people will also dream of things that their subconscious mind gives to them in a dream, and then they see it and it comes to them at a later date and they say, oh, I dreamed this.
Mm-hmm.
That is possible too. So yes, the subconscious mind is the way that the superconscious, that part of yourself, which is always connected to spirit, communicates to your conscious mind. You see, the superconscious mind, which is part of yourself that is always connected to spirit, cannot speak directly to your conscious mind. It always gives you the information through your subconscious mind, which then imparts it to the conscious mind. And that is also true of psychic messages from spirit. It still comes in the same way. The subconscious mind gets the information and sends it to the conscious mind. And so many people, when they are in a relaxed state, they are more likely to be able to hear what the message is from their subconscious mind. Also, while people are sleeping, that is why they can get the message in their sleep. But most people who are working at being psychic also are needing to relax so they can hear that which comes from their psychic, from their subconscious mind, excuse me, from their subconscious mind. So it is necessary to put yourself in a slightly altered state so that you can perceive these messages more easily.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe I've got a question or a topic related to what we're talking about, and that is if you could talk about the relationship between emotions and perceptions.
I don't know if you all heard the question, but Bob is here in the room and he has asked whether I would talk about the relationship between emotions and perceptions. Since perceptions are triggered by judgments, judgments also trigger emotions. So when you make a judgment that such and such a thing is good for you, you normally respond in a happy manner. If you make a judgment that such and such is bad for you and hurts you in some way, you can become angry, you can become defensive, you can be just unhappy, you can be anxious and worried about these things. There are very many different ways you respond to something that you have judged is not good for yourself, that is bad for yourself, whether it be the words of someone else, whether it be the actions of someone else, whether it be the actions of the political actions that are happening, such as what you are experiencing at this time through your politics. Whatever your judgment is, it will trigger an emotion within yourself. Emotions are the result of your judgments. When things go the way you want them to go, you feel happy, you feel good, you are enthusiastic, you may take action immediately to try to capture that which you perceive is good for yourself. And similarly, as I have already said, if your judgment is the opposite, that this is bad for me, you can have a variety of emotional reactions. Now, many of your emotional reactions are actually habitual. There are people who are always being hurt by what is happening around them. They perceive something is not good, something you have said or has been said, or something that has happened, and they become hurt. Now, hurt is just a way of covering up anger, because underneath that hurt is really anger that has been suppressed. Some people immediately become angry at what is happening, and they will speak up. And they perhaps will be defensive or they will be aggressive. but these get to be habitual actions. So that when something goes not the way you want it, you could be habitually aggressive back, deciding and arguing that you must have things the way you want them to be, not the way someone else wants them. It's also a habit to become hurt, where you think, oh, this person has been so mean or nasty to me, or they have hurt me in this way. And so you can be hurt and not say anything, uh, but still be offended. Some people take offense easily. That's a slightly different word, but it also works the same way. And some people become angry. They are maybe not aggressive, but they may argue with you because of what you have said in such a way that this is just their habitual reaction. Or you have all known people who are always arguing their point of view. That is their defensive mode of acting. And there are those people who are always hurt, and that is their defensive mode of acting. Even though it might not make sense to be hurt, it is still a habitual way of acting. We usually don't get too upset about those people who habitually embrace every situation with the most positive viewpoint possible. That makes our life easier as well as their lives easier, for they always see the good in what is happening. And if you can cultivate that in your judgments to see what is good about a situation, you will have a much happier life than if you allow yourself to react with either anger or unhappiness or hurt or aggressiveness, any of those type of values that we can append to your reactions. Are there any questions further on this subject? Did I answer you enough?
Yes, it was good. That's what I wanted you to express, because I think it's an important understanding of how emotions are triggered through perceptions, which are really thoughts.
Right. Perceptions is how you analyze what is going on around you. It's a combination of all that you see and hear, think, and judge. Are there other questions people would like to ask?
I just want to jump in and make a comment about that one. And thank you, as always. We looked at victimhood. You know, a lot of people like to feel like they're a victim, but law of attraction says that you're really not a victim, that for whatever that you're focused on, and not intentionally all the time, you know, it's your attraction point that could trigger that up. And I was thinking about the whole situation with the loss of my job. And there were days, like we discussed, um, you know, anger, going through all the emotions and whatnot. And then, like you said, looking at the positive aspects of it and gleaning from that. And I have to say, am I happier where I am? Yes. Am I making more money? No. Am I having more opportunity? Yes. And I've just been asked to work in another department as well to supplement more hours I've been offered. Not everyone's been offered this. Matter of fact, people scratch their heads and go and said, how did you get to work in such and such department today? And I just told them, well, you know, I put out that I wanted more hours. They weren't available in my department, and another department was critically short. And so I had been supplementing them in that department. So I was listening to you intently, and it's so true that our attitudes really shape things. And I did get into program mode, and I had to get out of it. I had to say, you know what? You're not going to be angry. These are regurgitated sentences. You said them your whole life, and you got to stop it. And once I started to apply what you were talking about, things did open up for me. So thank you so much again for reiterating that and reminding me as well. It's always good to hear again and again and again. Thank you.
Yes. Well, you will need not to hear it as much, because you have already broken one habit of assessing things in a particular way. And when you can stop that habit in even one area of your life, that success breeds success in other areas of your life, because you will also break habits then that are in other aspects of your life. It is easy to develop a habit of reaction, um, which have been demonstrated perhaps by our parents, as I have said in the beginning about perceptions. You have been, I will say, programmed, but stimulated to use the same, stimulated towards certain reactions, which this is how your parents did things. And believe it or not, as much as you might want to be different than your parents, you still find yourself saying the same things your parents did until you stop yourself. I think most people can relate to that situation. It is because it has been demonstrated that when this thus and so happens, you react thus and so. You say these words or you do these things. And this, when it is demonstrated over and over and over again, as it usually is through your lifetime when you are growing up with your parents, then you know this is the right way to behave and act. And sometimes it is not. And it behooves you to make an effort to change some of those actions. We certainly know that there are always times in people's lives where they do things that are harmful to themselves. And why do they do these things? I mean, we have people who drink alcohol in excess, people who use drugs, and people who flit from one relationship to another, maybe always seeking something new and different or better than what they have, even though what they have may be good. They become unhappy with it. It is because they allow themselves to think in negative ways about what is going on in their life. And as a result, they become unhappy in her relationships, and they move on. And so you are most correct by understanding that some of the words that you think and you say are habitual in your mind. And by working to overcome that perception, you will open yourself up to all other kinds of opportunities and situations in which you can really improve your life. Now, where the law of attraction is concerned, some of that you can say is the law of habituation. You know, you are not necessarily attracting the same situation, but you are making situations fit to whatever you have gotten accustomed to seeing in the world. And so you are, in a sense, attracting them to yourself, because you often make situations fit inappropriately in such a way you are still interpreting them in the way that you used to do so, in a way that is not helpful for yourself. And so, in a sense, this is how the law of attraction also works, because it is a law of creation. It is not just a law of attraction, but it is part of the law of a creation. As you think, so shall you create. And as you think, so shall you attract. Habitual actions, habitual thoughts attract to yourself the same situations over and over again. Are there other questions?
Now, is that the same as cause and effect?
That is a very good question. Yes. It is technically not the same as cause and effect, but it is definitely related. I will take a moment to try to make it more clear. Obviously, if you always do the same things, the result will be very similar in each time. An example will be, As a woman, you may be attracted to men that you can mother and take care of, because that may be part of your nature. You like to mother and take care of things. And so you'll be attracted to men who are perhaps weak and need your help. And so you can find yourself in one dissatisfactory relationship after another, because you keep choosing to have a relationship with the same type of man. Similarly, a man may be attracted to a woman that he can help, for the need to be helpful to other people is a highly desirable place. You become happy when you are able to help someone else. And so that tendency to be attracted to someone who needs your help is there pretty much for everyone. But then there are people who say, no, I want someone who is strong and independent and who can take care of himself or herself, because then we can have a better relationship, which is based on the value of both of us being successful and both of us moving ahead in our lives. And so perhaps that is your way of thinking when it comes to dating and going out. The person who likes to help the wounded bird or the wounded person all the time usually finds them to be unsatisfactory, because that person tends to continue to be wounded and need your help. Now, sometimes these relationships can work out very well because one person feeds the need of another. But many times these just prove to be satisfactory. And why is this? Because you have been attracted to the same type of person in your relationships each time. They often tell you that to do the same things over and over again and expect different results is the option of a fool. So when you are saying cause and effect, I do not know if previously we were speaking about reactions and habitual thoughts. So if you habitually take the same actions and do the same things, yes, of course, you are going to come up with the same effects, the same results of situations, because that's what it is. But that is not the same as the law of attraction. The law of attraction, as it is expressed in general, is that whatever you think about manifests in your life. You attract it to yourself. But it is similar to just understanding that if you think about this all the time, you are always casting your thoughts and interpreting through those thoughts. You are casting your thoughts over the situations that are happening. And so you are viewing everything through the same filter, so to speak, and you will attract to yourself the same things over and over again. The law of attraction states that if you wish to attract different things to yourself, just think of attracting different things. Think about different things. So it's not quite the same as cause and effect, but cause and effect certainly works there in the law of attraction. I think that was probably confusing. Are there other questions?
One other thing, I'm just curious. Can you relay or decode through animals? In other words, I want my cat's take on things.
Oh, I will decline to give you your cat's opinions, if you do not mind.
Okay.
Perhaps you can find yourself a pet psychic who will happily make contact with your animal to find out what they are thinking and what they are judging about the situation.
Yeah, because I was curious to know what her opinion is on a couple of things, but thank you.
Yes, well, find yourself a pet psychic who will talk to your animal. There are some available at least one available at the church.
Okay, thank you. I'll get the name. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there
As
other
long as-
questions?
Yes, as long as I'm in a state of confusion, could you explain the difference between the divine masculine and the divine feminine? Is it something within each person, or are they separate entities?
No, they are characteristics that come along, uh, such as personality types, you might think of them. The divine feminine would be the perfect feminine, which is always nurturing in her outlook. The divine masculine is always initiatory. It is the same as the masculine gender or the feminine gender. There are aspects which go along with the masculine and the feminine. Using the term divine masculine is merely a term, so that according to the law of gender, which I'm not sure if that's what you were asking about, the masculine gender always, or the masculine qualities are always one of initiation. The man has the energy that starts the project. But it is the woman, the divine woman, the feminine aspect, nurtures a project and brings it to fruition. And you can see that easily in the form of birth. The woman secretes an egg, which travels and goes whatever it may, but it simply cannot bring about a fully formed human being. It is inert, it has no power on its own. But the masculine sperm has energy. It moves all under its own power. And when it meets the egg, it penetrates the egg and energizes that egg to turn into a human being. It grows. So you can see that relationship in the mere biology of the human body. The masculine gives the energy, always has to start and initiate. The feminine always nurtures and brings it to fruition. Now, each of you, every person has both the masculine and the feminine within themselves. It can be more prevalent in one or the other of your sex, but you can have women who are quite aggressive and very initiatory and will initiate things, and they are using the masculine aspects of themselves. And then there are the men, and they, of course, can nurture and bring about things into fruition. And that is using their feminine part. Everyone has both the masculine and the feminine within them. And it is good, you can balance them out and use them both successfully in your life, or you may be simply more feminine in your way of being or more masculine in your way of being. And it works both ways. For men can be more feminine and nurturing, and or they can be more masculine and initiatory. So it takes both to start something and bring it to an end. And the person who is balanced well can use both his aspects to run his life, complete his life, use them in his life to his greatest advantage. Does that make that more clear for you?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Are there other questions?
Can I ask a health question? Is that you?
Well, normally we would ask, why don't you give me the question? We would ask Dr. Benjamin, unless you want to speak to Dr. Benjamin at the end. I can probably answer for you.
Okay. I have some kind of growth on my eyelid, and I had it removed, and it came back. And I'm wondering if there's anything I can do about that, or is it literally something, the way I see things, or I don't know.
Does it interfere with your vision?
No.
Okay, then if it interfered with your vision, then you might say that it was a reflection of some thought or your ability to see clearly, that you might have an obstacle or an object or a way of thinking that would
Right.
stop you from seeing things clearly and accurately. But since it does not interfere with your vision, I would tend to think, if I were you, to just think of it along the line of one of those nuisance things that skins sometimes develop on their own. The fact that you may have to have it removed again is not uncommon for small growths on the skin. So if I were to counsel you about that, I would simply say, well, take care of it with a physician. If it bothers you and annoys you, certainly remove it for yourself so that you can have more comfort in your life and in your moving your eyes and blinking, because I'm sure it can be an annoyance. But not to think of it as being an obstacle, that it is merely something that is growing on your skin. Unfortunately, this is not uncommon. As you well know, for many people have small growths on their skin in various places. And some of them get much bigger and some of them do not. And do not worry about that aspect. See if you can just get rid of it and keep it at bay. Hopefully it will not come back. I am sure that your doctor the first time reassured you that it was a benign growth. As long as it remains benign, that is all you need to make sure.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Are there other questions?
Hey, Rankar. This
Yes, Mahesh.
I have a question about the new administration, the next 4 years. Mr. Biden, President Biden, President-elect Biden,
Yes.
says that the country is deeply divided at this time. And he says he will try to heal the country. And the second thing that he wants to increase the corporate taxes and use that money for clean energy, environment, healthcare, and all that. So my question is, will he be able to accomplish this in the next 4 years?
It is highly unlikely that he will be able to accomplish what he has been talking about, simply because one part of the deep division in the country is due to the actions of many people, including other people in his party. They have seen it as to their purpose, the reason for being was to divide the country and encourage antagonism and unhappiness in parts of the country, in parts of people. So therefore, his own party created much of the division that is going on. I think if you were to think back, you may have to go back to like 15, 18 years ago. You will find that things were much more harmonious than they are today. It is because there has been much division that has been created through the political process, and that has been through the words and actions of quite more than one president from that particular party. As for his using and taking the taxes, I believe when people do the mathematics, that there is simply not enough money available to do everything that he says he can do. He will be not be able to do that through his finances. And you need only to look at the mathematics and see that it is impractical. Not to say that he might not make contributions, which may be helpful to people, but he certainly will not be able to manifest his rather sweeping vision the way that he has spoken about it. It is just not possible to do what he is saying.
And about the division, is this going to be a never-ending process, like never looking back? Country will be more and more divisive, or somebody will come and able to heal the country at all?
Well, there are very many people who are involved in causing this division in the country. It is highly unlikely that Mr. Biden will be able to heal the country because he cannot affect what other people say and do. He can only say and do for himself. And there are too many people involved in this. And unless he preaches a great deal of love and takes a great deal of loving actions toward the opposite political party and seeks to satisfy them and their followers, it is not likely to happen. So it is just not possible for him to unite the country all by himself. He is going to require the help of other legislators. And it is going to require considering the thoughts and the desires of the opposite party within the country. At this point in time, both parties have worked very hard at their own thoughts and desires, and that there is no compromises being said from either party, and both parties must compromise. So do not be surprised if not much occurs.
This is unfortunate. This had happened in India, the divisions, and it is more and more divisive, more and more division there, and the country doesn't prosper.
Yes, you are correct, but it requires cooperation between individuals in order to make great prosperity.
Sure, thank you.
You are welcome. Are there other questions?
Well, at this point, Mr. Biden has declared himself the president-elect, but he truly is not the president-elect because it's not a legal election yet, or it hasn't been legally determined that he's the president-elect. And of course, Donald Trump is going to be contesting that. Do you have any idea what's going to happen with Trump's attempt at proving the dishonesty of the election?
I will decline to give you a conclusion, but what you have brought up, considering the results of the election, that Mr. Biden has declared himself as being the winner, while the other president, Mr. Trump, has not yet conceded that he is a loser, that there seems to be a great deal of election irregularities that are happening. And either way, there are lawsuits which are occurring, which are possibly may stop the final declaration of who is president, the final vote, because you are all aware that in the United States, it is not the popular vote. It is what happens when the electorates from the various states, the electors meet in their, have their meeting and cast their ballots, that the president is elected. At this point in time, with the action of both men, you are seeing that the country will remain heavily divided, and there is not going to be a happy situation or solution to this situation. It is going to cause a great deal of difficulty for everyone, no matter what happens at this point in time. So you will have to deal with these things. And that is why Mr. Biden will not be able to heal the country. If Mr. Trump is elected, he will not be able to heal the country, for it is going to take the efforts of many people to heal the country.
So how long do you think that's going to take?
I am not going to answer those kinds of questions.
No, I'm talking about the healing of the country.
I understand what you are talking about, but it is up to the individual people. Each individual person in the country must make an effort to be harmonious and to come into better opinions. Those who did not accept the election of Mr. Trump and were hostile to him through the entire years of his presidency are just as much they created much of the division that is present at the moment. And of course, now you have the possibility that Mr. Trump will not be elected for and his supporters will also feel that they have been cheated because of the election irregularities. There is much hostility in this country at this point in time due to the fact that there were election irregularities, and various people deliberately sought to overcome and circumvent what was proper election standards. They claimed it was the virus that was the reason that they were allowing things to happen differently. But it was not just the virus. That was a convenient excuse, and there were deliberate actions on the part of many people to make it more difficult to have a fair and honest election as it had been in other years. In other years, if you were unhappy with what happened, at least you knew that the election was fair and honest and that no one person had gotten, well, this was not true. Almost every election had some cheating, but not cheating on the rather massive area that has occurred recently. So you have caused yourselves a great deal of difficulty over the next 4 years and perhaps longer. And when you learn your lesson that dishonesty does not get you what you wish, that it makes everyone unhappy in the long run, then it is that you will have to heal. Someone will come along possibly to heal this country. But it is going to take a change in attitude from nearly every person who has been involved in this election, at whatever point and whatever level, or most of them are quite hostile to the other side. That is why you will not be healing the country anytime soon. And do not seek to find that, because you have to heal it within yourself. You have to be happy for yourself and what is happening. You must see the good. And that is not likely to happen with the division that has been created by many people, many people, the people in the media, the people in government, the people in politics, the lawmakers, the people that were supposed to be the ones that create the good for the country. And they are the ones who have created this terrible situation, which makes it impossible to have a good result from this election. That is my scolding for the day. Look into yourself and see your own attitudes and how you may have contributed to this situation, and change yourself to bring yourself in more harmony with whatever happens.
Back to perceptions again.
Yes, you are back to perceptions again. Yes, perhaps you heard that comment from Bob. We are back to perceptions. Change your perceptions and you change your life. The option is yours. Are there other questions? I will not discuss the election any longer. I have scolded you all. And now we will move on to other things, or we will say goodnight for the evening.
No, maybe I ask about my knee, about my legs. If this is good healing, if I will have a healthy legs.
Well, you have taken, Julia here has a question. She is having pain in her leg and she is under some treatments from the doctor at this point in time, and they are seeking to make a diagnosis. And so her question is, will she have healthy legs in the future? I believe they will be able to be of help to yourself, and you will be able to have some therapies which will help in ways. You may need to have, I am not certain, it is not determined, you may need to have some surgery.
Surgery?
You may need it,
Okay,
but wait and see till you have your diagnosis.
okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions?
But if this is surgery will be successful, if I go?
If it is determined that it can be helpful, yes, you will, it will be successful.
Okay, thank you.
So I think maybe my scolding may have finished our discussions for this evening. But I do give you all my blessings, and I wish you much happiness in your lives. And please look to your own thoughts and your ideas, and to know that this affects how happy you are in your life.
Yeah.
Take responsibility for your perceptions. Try to find that which is good in everything that you do and everything that you experience, and know that everything works out for the best. For it could be said that it is all God acting on every level, in every way, for that is true. I give you my blessings. Good night.
Good night, thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Hi, I'm back. Okay, is there anything else for this evening? Ronkar took care of the medical questions, so I don't think I have to get Dr. Benjamin. No, it seems like nothing else is there. So, well, remember, I love you all. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.